Hey, John, how are you?
All good, Jay. How are you, my man?
I'm doing good, man. I know this is going to be an incredible episode. We're going to be hitting the ball back and forth, talking about, mind and body, like how we talk about that. We hear that all the time in sports, but truly, you spent 35 years of your career doing a lot of work on connecting mind and body with athletes, but also you've gone through a long trajectory of your career where you've worked with all different kinds of athletes. So we're going to talk a little bit about today's athlete as well. So, man, I can't wait to hit it up with you today on the show.
All good, man. Well, hey, you know what? Thank you for having me. This is a subject near and dear to my heart. So, thank you very much for having me, and thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this, man. That's key.
You bet, man. You bet. All right, man. Let's get into it. Let's go. Let's get into mental toughness, man. Because you teach this stuff every day, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all this stuff. So, when you think about mental toughness, what does that mean to you?
I don't like the term. I think it's a soft term, but I understand it. If you got to talk about it, then I think to me it's always something that if you're talking about it, really it's not about it. I think the most difficult thing for humans to be is disciplined. And I come from I'm going to refer to this a lot in this, and I also do in my work. I come from a martial arts background, and I've been in martial arts almost 40 years now, growing. And the toughest, scariest, nastiest people were the nicest, quietest people you'd never, ever would guess it, ever. But they were mentally tough beyond belief. So if I answer that question, it means doing the little things every day that no one will have to remind you about. It's like quiet, poised discipline from you're hydrating to taking care of your business. In martial arts, I always say, once you attain a black belt level, the real arts, you shouldn't think yourself as a master. You should keep growing, and you don't stop honing your skills until you leave this planet. So every day that the discipline, there's even guys who teach us, do stuff before. As soon as you open your eyes in bed, you're going over stuff in your mind before your feet touch the ground. And when your feet touch the ground, you become one with the earth, and you be with the earth. That's that type of discipline. Now, I'm not there yet, but it's something to work for. So probably the overt mental toughness and the hoorah stuff, that's kind of artificial and phony, I think about. The quiet, poised, everyday discipline. People going to work, handling the business. I mean, that's mental toughness. That makes sense. The hoorah stuff, that's bluff. The poised ones.
Exactly. And because I hear it too, because obviously I'm in the field, and you're the 3 steps to mental toughness and all these different ways, and I think at the end of the day, when you look at it, I always say this: do all the hard work consistently in the dark so you can shine in the light. So when it's time, like when it's an adverse situation, when shit gets really tough, if it's end of the game, it's a tie game, like how are you in that moment? Well, because you trained for that moment, done all those reps in the dark to be mentally tough. And there's so much more to it, but there is all these glitzy and cool little sayings on mental toughness, but
yeah. It sounds good, but a little kid has to take a bus across a tough city to get to school. That's mentally tough. Everyone, the mom has got to get the kids to school and hustle the job, and that now especially with COVID out there, that's mentally tough. To me, as I've gotten older in this industry, sports, that's not real pressure. I mean, we build too much about pressure about sports. It's not life and death. It's not food on the table. It's not a rent payment. It's not. I think we've come at this stage in my life, look back, and we've made too much of pressure for athletes in sports. It's a sport. It's to enjoy it. It's meant to have fun and do your best. The real pressure, man, that ain't real pressure, man. That's not real pressure. We put too much around these poor athletes in that regard. I mean, I didn't pick poor Simone Biles that just crumble. Just a stud. I mean, she was doing stuff that they said you can't do that, so we're gonna give you takeaway points. Like, you can't do it, but she can, man. So my heart breaks for someone like that, because there's not real pressure, but they make it into her world. It is the pressure. So exactly. I just read today in the paper, I don't follow sports like I used to. It kind of seemed that up behind the curtain where I don't, it's kind of turned me off a lot. But the fact she had the guts to get back on and do, get the bronze medal and stand there when everyone in the world knows that's a gold medal standard, and I tip my hat to her for even attempting it. So now that's to me is mental toughness. She's there That's for her teammates. She didn't quit on her team. She didn't fly home. She didn't badmouth anyone. The little girl stood there, took it, stayed with the team, and then stepped on there just to kind of for herself. So that's toughness to me. So
Yeah. I love that you brought that up, because not only did she, there was a poise to her when she was actually delivering the message. Like she, she wasn't crying about it. But you could tell, like she was good with it, even though it probably brought on more pressure, more things she had to deal with. But that moment I saw, I'm like, wow, she's handling that pretty well. She's delivering the message pretty well. And then you see her in every event. She's sitting there with her team, cheering everyone on.
Champ. Yeah, man, come
Yeah,
on. A champ. I was shocked. I was a champ.
totally.
In this industry where we work with, a lot of the mind with the athletes in our own particular fashion, I mean, I just feel like the system failed her. How do you fail a little one? She's an absolute stud. She might be the baddest athlete that known to man on the planet right now, and the system failed her. It just kind of makes me cringe. Just come on, man. We got to do better than that. We have to.
We do.
For
sure. And you know what? There's a funny. I think you've probably seen this or on like Twitter. There was a lot of people. Obviously, they have a thought on it, right? They have all these commentaries out there, and so many people were like, "If I was Simone," and so people would write back, "You'll never be Simone."
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean,
you'll never, right?
Yeah.
And I think I heard one person, and we could definitely like have a show just talking an episode based off all of this and the pressure, expectations. But one commentator on some sports network said something really, to me, was like, okay, it makes kind of sense. She's like, if an athlete comes out and says, I have mental health, okay, it's none of our business. None of our business what that is. Now, we want to make it our business because she's been, she's the GOAT. She's, the media's made her all these things. So we need to know, like, what is it? We don't need to know. It's her business. The fact that she shared it with us, she could have said like, hey, she pulled a hamstring and she was out. And then we would have said, oh yeah, she had a hamstring pull.
Even that's business, from an ankle to a hamstring strain to a shoulder. None of your business, quite frankly. Your only business when you turn on the TV, you watch the athletes do their things, and you can bet on it. You can watch it, cheer for it, boo it, whatever you want. Other than that, it's not your business. You can choose not to watch it, but that's how you make your choice. But yeah, I don't find the social media stuff. I don't do, man. I don't, none of that. I just think it just lost a lot of its soul. So it's I did not see that, and I don't watch it, so I can't say I'm aware. If I see enough of being around, yeah, that's a shame. I mean, that's a fan. Fans is short for fanatic, and you're entitled to your opinion, how wrong it may be, but you're entitled to that. And we used to say when we get on the road and in certain games and fans would boo us, we just say thanks for coming because they're the ones haters to love us. You just pay tickets to watch the game, man, and that pays the bills. So thanks for coming. But Simone, baby, you keep rocking it. Thanks for coming. Tweet all you want. At least keep on watching. So
yeah, man, that's one thing I learned a long time ago being an athlete, that I learned this whole idea of being right with yourself. So no matter, because you're gonna fail, you're gonna whatever how you look at failure, but you're gonna have mistakes. You're not gonna meet expectations. Shit's going to happen, but you're also gonna have other people who are gonna commentate on it as well. So when you're right with yourself, so when you actually have a poor game or poor games or a poor month, and someone says something or some kind of reporter says something, the best way to actually to combat that, so you can diffuse it and then you can keep on staying focused and stay in your lane, is just saying thanks for sharing. That's it. Someone says something like, hey man, you're in a slump, thanks for sharing, man, I'm good. But you're not even plugged into it. Like, you just stay in your lane, man.
Yeah, you just gotta keep rolling. I mean, I about a year and a half ago, I started doing a version of this with my company, right? And this is something I had disdain for. I said, I just want to go out and do the work. But with COVID, we couldn't. And then Zoom was the only medium you had to communicate. So we're doing this. And first guy I talked with a gentleman named Todd Tissue. He's a big wave surfer. And we had worked with Todd, myself and my head coach of my group, Eric Bringus. And we had worked with Todd in another location on his rehab program. He had shattered his right arm, his whole arm and wrist destroyed. And at the time we were working with Dr. Art Ting in his physical rehab program. And Doc was a consulting orthopedist, and poor Todd had been all over the place trying to figure this out. He's a big wave surfer. For those listeners don't know, those are massive house-sized waves. They're all over the world, but California, Northern California especially during the winter, Mavericks, you'll hear that, advertised. Toddy was one of the first ever out in that water. So these guys are different levels of warrior. These are like Simone Biles of the ocean. But his point being, yeah, you're in the middle of a water, and I'm a surfer, but I stink at it now. Now I call myself a wave flopper, if you will. I kind of get out and I body surf and just get the waves kind of kill me. The big waves I can't handle. But the point being, there you cannot, because you are dead, or someone else is dead. So in that situation where people are ridiculing athletes, you just kind of be with it. Everyone likes to quote Bruce now, but be like water. But that's really, man, it's just like, you don't get smashed, but you can't like be rigid with it. You got to go with it. And that's what the martial arts has always taught us. You get hit or grab, you kind of be with it. And Simone was great. Like you said, you kind of say, man, thanks for the tip. You be with it and you just keep flowing, man. You don't let it stop you. Because it'll kill you. It'll ride away and slowly kind of kill your inside because it gets to here. So you just got to flow with it, man.
For sure, man. So speaking of mental toughness, now I know you've got years in this business. And so we're going to kind of get into you in a second here. So when it comes to mental toughness, like, can you reflect on your whole career? Like, and I know there's tons of these moments for you. What's that one moment in your career where you had to be mentally tough, where you had to dig in your heels, shit got tough, whatever it was, working with athlete, working for a team, like what was it that you had to like dig your heels in and push through?
I mean, there's many of them. I'm not sure. Probably early in my career, I was working as an assistant strength coach and a massage therapist. I got trained early. I went and got certified in massage because I just wanted to find as many ways I could help athletes heal their bodies and minds. So, and I worked in physical therapy as well. So as a physical therapy assistant, I realized the importance of massage. So I was working at the time. I was just starting as a middle grad school at John F. Kennedy University, good old JFK, with Gail Sultan, her team. Thank you, Gail. And Betty Wentz, the whole crew who took care of me many, many years ago. And I was, the Canadian Football League had expanded into the Americas, the United States, and one of their locales was Sacramento. So I was I'd start off as an intern, got hired on as a strength coach assistant with Keith Irwin, a mentor of mine. He was the head strength coach, one of the best human beings in the world. Keith and his wife, Susie, took great care of me, took me under their wings. I mean, fed me, housed me. Keith taught me this industry, how to deal with people. And he was just a sweetheart of a man, but he's third-degree Taekwondo black belt that he got in Korea when he was in the United States Marines during war. He's one of the guys to tell you early on in our previous conversation, quiet, beautiful, sweet man, but you would not even think to step on that line. Anyway, so I'm on this staff. It's training camp. It's our second season. We're out in the middle of Yuba City. It's hot. There's no water in the pool. And that year, Yuba City is voted the worst city in the world. Like, what are we doing here? 120 football players. Everyone wants to be in the NFL. And we're out. It was kind of a jump off point for all of us, coaching staff on down to us young coaches. And it was in between. We're walking from the lunchroom to a meeting room. I'm walking there. And I'm on the ground before walking in, we're stretching one of our players. And I'm on the ground, I'm kneeling, stretching his hamstring. He was cramping, so he hydrated. I'm cramping a big old offensive lineman. And one of the running backs is a talented dude, was running around, running his mouth, and takes a big old beetle, or it might have been a cockroach, and shuts it down my shirt. So the martial artist wanted to flip, because I want to go and rip this guy apart.
Right. And
it was a testing point, right? Here's a young dude, on there. And the test was this. I could flip my role and lose it, become a guy. And guys knew enough about my background because I trained a lot of these guys in the offseason, so they knew enough. They said, that's the one guy I wasn't anywhere near Keith, but I could handle myself enough. And so they knew that. I said, hey, man, so-and-so, I would not do that. So my point, the reason was mental toughness, because I was a young coach. I was being challenged. I was being tested. Yep. And immediately I wanted to get physical. And, it might have been, but I would have been a sloppy process. It might have taken a few months, but I would have made my point. And he wouldn't have played that day or ever again. And that's where my mind was going right now. So I had to somehow breathe it, calm it down and say, hey, man, that's not going to work. And Guy stepped in, appreciated it. And he ended up being a guy I loved working with. He was great. But as a young coach, I was challenged because he knew about my mind background, all this stuff. He just would challenge me. And he was just messing around, a young guy messing around during the tedium of training. Yeah. But in a split second, you had to have that poise. Now I could go give you 1,000 other examples, But that's for a young coach trying to cut their teeth in this industry. And everyone wants to be in the pros and everyone's trying to get there. That's a telling moment. It's almost 30 years later, I can remember it. Poise.
Yeah, poise. And man, that's poise is one of my mantras, but man, it brings me right back to when I was coaching football again, and coaching really good, the program that I was working at. We went to state a couple of times, and I remember as a new coach, even though I played football for 13 years and I knew the game of football, but I was also coaching football on the other side of the ball for the first time. So I was a quarterback my whole life. Now I'm coaching linebackers, a little bit different. So learning these dudes, it's kind of like they're young guys and it's just like a young kid. They want to push the boundaries.
The coach said, I'd have a problem with that. A sissy quarterback teaching linebackers, that doesn't make any sense.
Right? Exactly.
I have a problem with that right now. What are you, nuts? Well, that doesn't work.
It gave me some range, right? It gave me some range.
Well put.
But it was great because one of the sophomores, I remember he, in the game of football and sports in general, there's that connection of slapping each other on the back, the butt. There's just a lot of that happens. And so when I had one of the players a young player did so well in a drill, like I was just like, whoa. And I went to him and I gave him a lot of praise. And as soon as I turned around, he slapped me on the butt. And so there was a point where I saw red because I'm like, you don't do that shit at all. Like, even like when I grew up, if I did that to a coach back then, like I probably wouldn't have been on the team. So I remember when I turned around, I took that breath that saved me. And I said, hey man, come here. I said, let's go to coach. And I went to the head coach, and the head coach is like, if you did that to the head coach. So I went to the head coach, hey, this is what he just did. I go, so will you do that to the head coach right now? Will you go slap his ass? And like the head coach looked at me and he goes, is that what you just did? And then I said, I'll let you handle it. And I just went back to the drill. But there was so much poise, but I wanted to rip his head off. Because to me, I felt a little bit violated as a coach. And I felt like there's a line of respect, right?
Always.
So yeah, we get tested all the time.
Yes. That's part of the nature, man. They're athletes, human beings. That's just the way it goes.
Right. Exactly.
I just say, bring it. Come on, let's go. Bring it. I'm going to test you too, young fella. I'm going to test you too. Let's go.
Exactly. Well, so when you think about your career, again, we're talking about range, man, you've got, 30, 35 years of doing this. Have you worked with, individually and teams at the NFL and MLB, and I can keep on going, MLS, ATP, NHL, NCAA, and you got all these like developmental programs that you've been working with over the years. You also got a background that's in psychology, so clinical psychology, sports psychology. So what came first? Did you feel like you were going to get into like the psychology field first, and then, or was it more strength and conditioning? Like how'd that work?
Probably when I first realized there's something to mind and body, honestly. I'm one of 5 kids, and I had an older brother, older sister who were great students, and they're older than us. Probably I was in the middle, so they were, my sister Katie's 7 years old, older than me. My brother Dennis 6 years. So then it was me, and then I had 2 little sisters. And Friday in our little school, grammar school, and at the time I was the oldest one in the grammar school. I had 2 little sisters. At the time, Friday was spelling test day for the whole school. Every grade had their spelling test, right? So my parents are on your academic, you handle your business academically. Long story short, Thursday night, to kind of in a fun way, Pops would come home from work and say, all right, after dinner, we're going to do it. Start to say, I got a surprise for you. You're going to go in the front room, and Mom probably was tired, made dinner, going to hit the sack. My older brother and sister probably already away at college. He'd say, all right, we're going to do spelling baseball. All right, Pops, spelling baseball, because you want to make sure we're ready for the test tomorrow, right? And we played spelling bee baseball. I had no idea what it was, but what he did, and he'll get a kick out of this if he ever hears and see this, is that he turned studying into a game. You use sports. We all love baseball. We're Giants fans in San Francisco, born and raised. You're a Giants fan, for better or for worse, always. And then we played spelling baseball, right? You get the word right at home plate, you go to first base. Next quote, if you every time you get it right, you get a base. You get it wrong. And he made up game. He was masterful at that. But he was equating the mind and studying and sports and movement. Now, we weren't running and jumping, but we were learning and moving. Wow. Now, you can tell how I talk. I can't sit there I cannot sit. I mean, even when I go back when I was a kid, I lose my mind sitting. I couldn't sit for more than 10, 15 minutes. I just couldn't.
Right.
And that's why I love martial arts. We learn by moving.
Right.
So that's probably the first time I said, hey, wait a minute. And that didn't hit me till years later. Then in high school, at the end of my high school tenure, I got in some trouble. Self-made. I'd just be young and foolish and stupid, you know.
Yeah.
And my parents had tried, and I just didn't listen. And I was doing my thing, stubborn. And I excelled at being a knucklehead. And I got rewarded by getting kicked out of school and had to go to work and got my GED. Went to work, and my big brother, my parents are distraught. Like, what are we going to do with this kid? This kid's, you know, driving us nuts. Big brother Dennis came along and said, I got him. He took me to my first martial arts class. I was 17 at the time. Now I'm thinking martial arts, we're going to get down and start fighting. I said, great. I'm becoming an assassin. Awesome. It's great. Well, it was in San Francisco. It was a Tuesday night, late, you know, mid-spring, so sunny outside. So we want to be outside playing outside with the boys playing baseball. Because that was baseball season. You're outside till 8:30. And I'm in this old gym in San Francisco and Oak Street going like 150, like all look to me like hippies going, doing this slow movement, but this stuff called Tai Chi. Go, what is this crap? And they taught differently. They taught by being, they taught by movement. And the older guy came and grabbed me, put me in the back of the room, but still in the crowd. So he didn't take me away from the group. I was still part of the group. He started showing me the movements and explaining it to me. And then it hit me. Wow. And everyone was a calmness. A calmness. So then it hit me. I'm 17 and I'm like a, you know, ramped up rabid dog going, let's go, let's go, let's go. And I walk out going, this is some weird stuff, but something I kind of liked it. It was weird, but I liked it. So probably at 17, I realized there's something to the mind and body connection. I didn't know what it was, but it was something. And that's when I first realized at that point, that there's something to this. And that's kind of been, you know, so after that, I sought out martial arts. I was in a car accident. My knee and back were trashed, you know, unfortunately went out of my fault. So it got me off that track. And it's always been a hindrance to my ability to really pursue it. But a few black belts later and almost 40 years in it, you know, I can't do it like I want to, but it was probably that year at 17 years old, walking into a big room of Tai Chi, not knowing where I am, all jacked up. And all of a sudden I walked out kind of calm, going, there's something to this. And it was never spoken, Ben. It was never said, this is it. It was how you were. And it was communal. It was really trippy, man. But it was amazing experience. Yeah. So that was it.
You know, that special moment. I mean, there's so many of those in life that we all have experienced, and I know you have, and I have. And I know, like, when I got introduced to Buddhism, there was something about, like, as soon as I got introduced, I'm like, what? There's something special here. And when you deal with, like, you know, flow and zone, when you experience that, man, there's something special. When you get to teach somebody how to connect the mind and body, there's something special, not only for the athlete, but for you. You can see that, you know, and you can feel that energy. But we talk about it all the time, mind and body. We hear it all the time, mind and body. And we've spent so many years, like I say, old school about the physical. It's all about physical. Now we're realizing how important the mental is. But now we're like, hey, don't forget the physical. Don't forget the body, because the body's got to move too. So within your role, how do you go about really, like, getting that mind and body connection? I mean, I know there's so many different ways to get the result, but, like, what are some of the ways to get an athlete to connect that mind and body, and what's some of the things that you do to get them bought into that?
I hate the word buy-in, so I won't use that buy-in. I know it's a well-intended term. Mm-hmm. And part of me, when I started my graduate studies in sports psychology, I had disdain for, because I'd come from martial arts class and we never talked about it, but we did it. And then they had these fancy terms and approaches and all that. So I always, even to this day, just, you know, I tried to even go get my pursuit, you know, hang up a shingle. It wasn't something I thought there was, I respected it, liked it, but also there's something artificial about it and natural. I just mentioned a school where I walked into a gym and I was breathing and being, I had no idea, but I did it. So when you ask that, I created a culture from the jump. From the jump, we always say, you know, you walk into wherever we're holding or working, no matter where, on Zoom, we call it mad. I call it mad time. I call my own company, basically, it's very simple. Murry, after my tribute to my mom and dad and all my family, you know, all the family names I could put on there, but Murry, athletic development. And I wasn't trying to be fancy with the name. It's just pretty straightforward. That's really, because I didn't know what to call it.
Right.
So I didn't want to call it MAD, but that's the acronym that you get from it. So you kind of roll with it, right? And stuck. And that's how you create that culture. So the way we do it, the first thing we do, I remember driving home from a job many, many years ago. I'm in traffic on Highway 101, coming northbound up 101 from the San Jose area. I'm talking to Grant Parr, who's one of my youngsters from Mission of San Francisco, and GB now is, in sports psychology, God guru now. God bless.
Yeah.
He called me and he's on the phone, and it wasn't even a car phone then. I probably was on my phone. He's all excited, telling me all this. And I was getting frustrated. I said, gee, man, no disrespect, you're off these different terms. I said, man, keep it simple, brother. Keep it simple. Just breathe and be. If you just breathe, man, and be. Because the baddest martial arts I ever came across, I always talked about in combat, you don't go against your combat, you be with them. Your energy becomes with them. At the time as a young martial artist, I didn't get it. But as I've grown up, and I mentioned taught tissue and surfing, you don't battle a wave, you be with the water. When you don't battle communication, you be with it. So first thing we do always, we just breathe and be. And oftentimes people go, what are you talking about? I just breathe and be. We can do it on a Zoom, we can do it in a room, but that's to create the culture. Because we get that unified form of breathing, whether it's one-on-one or a group, we're all breathing as one. And that's how we start. And that's really, that's how, tribes going into war, if you study them, or wolf packs, there's a unification, and probably when we talk about orcas when they hunt, or humpback whales, when they work in packs and they work in unison. Now, how can we work in unison if I'm not in unison, right? So we bombard the body with all these terms and all these apps. No, man, just breathe and be. Just simple.
Keep it simple.
And then we can go from there. So that's how I do it.
Okay, that's awesome. Now, I want to talk about roles only because your background, not only from your education, but also with martial arts, to me, you got best of both worlds. You've got the mental side, you got the physical side. Don't know much about like the diet side, how much on the nutrition side, but when maybe this is just my education, when I was going through my grad program, it was all about your role. And I remember they talking about like, hey, if you're going to do an internship for a football team, you really got to know your role because you played football for such a long time. You got to be careful of telling them the answers because you already know you played it for so long. So you need to know your role in that moment, and your role is mental performance. It's not strength and conditioning. It's not nutrition. It's not coaching football. So it's like knowing the role. So with you've got a blend of a few things that would actually impact the development of an athlete. So do you do you look at your role as one thing, or you just like holistically, man, I got a lot of shit I can bring and make you better. So this is my role.
Early on in my career, it comes from a martial artist. The goal was in any situation, you need to become out alive and be safe. And one art I've studied for years, self-defense art, the role is that we want to be able to make sure that we prepare you that no matter what alleyway you were dropped in ever on this planet, no matter where on this planet you dropped in that alleyway, you're coming out alive. So for athletes, my bottom line is I want to prepare him or her to be their very best when it's time to compete. Him or her at their very best. All right. So I did study nutrition. So I've studied all massage, physical therapy. So I did that to that point. All right. So when I was on a team role, it was hard because I'd see things that sometimes that weren't optimal for the athlete. And the bottom line is what's best in my mind, for my role is best for the athlete. If I can help my athletes get better and keep them safe and help them be their very best, that is my role. Gee, you locked me, man. You still have me?
No, I got you, man. We're good.
You're screaming. Apologize. Okay. So that's my role. It always depends on the circumstances. There's pretty good evidence that now I have my own business and my own foundation. So if I was not good on I was great on a team that was committed to being a champion and really get after it. But he had parties, people, and he had different positions on whose role was certain particular skill sets and responsibilities. Didn't live up to it. I didn't handle that well. Mm-hmm. That's why I left it, because I saw too much behind that, and there's too much scum. I don't care what they say. I won't go into details, but I've seen a lot of it, and always at the detriment to the athlete. So, and that's why I started my own business, because I'm done. That's why I work with younger ones, because I'm done with just not doing it. Because if I can help an athlete, I am. And I wasn't trying to put myself on a pedestal. The bottom line in a team sport is what? Winning. Winning.
Right.
Winning. I mean, we're here to win. Now, it's not life and death, we talked about earlier, but we're here to win.
Yeah.
Even if you're a sport, if you're an athlete, you're here to compete. Even individual athletes, I'm here to win. How can I help you be your very best to win? If I'm on a great staff, I handle my role, but also it's a collaborative effort. They can help me. Yeah, I always went to team meetings. I didn't break down film, but I wanted to learn the vernacular. I got to learn the demands. I got to learn what they're doing. I'm not going to coach it, but vernacular continuity of care is imperative. So when they meet with a doctor or PTs or trainers, I involve them. If I can learn more and help our athletes, that was bottom line. So I think the collaboration, football is very traditional. You roll. Man, coach, our role is what? To win.
Right.
I'm not going to teach them how to, the drops or the reads, what have you. But, the better I understand that, the better I can help their mind be at their very best and perform.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I love it. I love it. Well, and with your career, I mean, again, you've all levels you've worked with. I know that you spent a fair amount of time with the Warriors as well. So back in the day, when you look at that type of athlete, when I say back in the day, when you started your career, there was different protocols, different ways of coaching people. It was just different, right? So, but yes. You also, because of that actually produced different athletes. So now I believe, and maybe you might push me back on this, but we're a little more sensitive these days. And so there's different protocols for coaches, what you can say, can't say, water breaks, all these things. I'm not saying good or bad, but there's just a different structure in place. So how different is that athlete from when you started to the type of athlete that you coach now?
Well, our society's different, man. It's way different. I mean, I was at a family wedding this past weekend. It's the first family wedding since COVID. So this over 2 years, right? So it was kind of a euphoric moment, also a sad one because we've lost some family members since that point. So I'm talking to one of my cousins, my cousin's husband, so a cousin by marriage, an older cat, and he was raised by old school parents. And we're just saying the world's changed. I mean, it's just how you communicate, just different. So that's a question you could do a whole series of podcasts on, as you could. To answer that question, the difference is that this crap right here, this is a tool, right?
Yeah.
It's a tool. It's kind of like 100 years ago, someone invented, a hammer. Everyone walks around with a hammer in their left hand because you never know what you got to nail, right? Now everyone walks around with this silly tool in their hand, or we're glued to it. So, and we've out-teched our humanness. If that makes sense. We've third-party our humanness. So sports is a human venture. It's a human interaction. It's a human performance done by humans for humans, purely for humans. The animals and other nature thinks it's all pretty folly, but it's life, quote unquote, life and death pressure. So, our human society has changed. So it's but we're still human. So I try to kind of get through that and get to the human. Because everyone loves to do that. Everyone loves to smile and be happy now, maybe certain ways, but our human physiology has not changed. It has not. Now we can have different names for it, different interpretations, but we have not. We've been on 2 feet for a few hundred years, 2,000 years right now, since we've come from all fours. Other than that, they haven't changed. So, I'm not trying to, hopefully it gives you an answer, but I try to retain humanness and bring back to being human.
Oh yeah.
As much as I can,
for sure.
That's imperative. And that's how, I talked about culture and the mindset and breathe and being. That's how we start with. We just start with it, and then we get to it.
I love it, man. Breathe and be. I hear that all the time in the music with Graham. So it's
I know that.
He's been preaching that a lot. And you know what? You make a great point. You actually did answer the question, because I would say, in whole, if you were to break it down real quick, like what's the difference from my perspective? The difference is, I'm not saying that we have like these athletes are distracted, but there are more distractions. And that is that thing you were holding in your hand. In year 2000, our attention span was about 12 seconds or so. And then now it's like 6 seconds, because we're constantly, we're just in that microwave society now. There's so many things flying at us, and there's so many more things judging us, that an athlete can get more distracted.
No doubt about it.
No
doubt about it.
So,
it's I had a young coach recently who's interning with us, a great young guy, coach. And he brought up an example of a certain movement on Instagram. He says, this particular person there, do what they're doing, look pretty contraindicated, look pretty sexy for a picture, but like, that's pretty dangerous stuff. And its true applicability is limited, because if you did that when you worked for a team, you probably get fired, because that's this Cirque du Soleil act with, a basic movement, slow your roll, right? But, a young coach and goes, well, this guy's has like 100,000 followers. That's the world. This guy, that makes it science. I know. Pardon me, I didn't tell me that. Yeah, but that's how they legitimize.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So 20 years ago, that you're fired for even thinking of that, let alone attempting it.
Right.
So it definitely has.
Wow.
It definitely has.
Totally. Totally. Well, man, there's so many. I mean, I could talk for another 2 hours with you on different things, and I'm gonna definitely have you on the show again because there's just so much more to explore and discover.
Man.
But I'm a big proponent on reflection. I feel like if we're gonna try to get better at our craft, we got to spend just a few moments on a daily basis just to look what went well, what do I need to address, right? How do I get better? Like how do I just get that 1% better? So when you think about your whole career, before we sign off here, think about like what is that one thing that's not even that one thing. What do you think has made you like? What have you learned the most about yourself throughout your whole career?
Geez. Resiliency.
Mm,
I don't quit. I don't quit. The many times I want to, believe me, I don't quit. I readapt, and it gets harder too as you get older. But it gets harder no matter what. And I now I turn 55, and that sounds like an old dude, but I don't feel that. I don't think that. But you say, good gracious, you old dude. But I don't feel that at all. Man, I'm just getting started. But you have to be resilient. There's always be challenges. You have to be resilient. And I just go back to martial arts or being in the ocean. I live right by the Pacific Ocean, and I was in there last night. You just got to be with it. And you just be with it, and then you keep rolling. And you just kind of, And I'm lucky. I come from an awesome family. Yeah, a bunch of crazy folks, but better or for worse. That's really lucky. I have an awesome wife and family, so I'm fortunate in that regard. I'm very, very lucky, and you can't lose fact that I'm a lucky cat to even keep breathing on this planet. So
yeah,
don't take it for granted, but it's resiliency. Man. I'm not quitting.
I love it,
I'll take my
man.
lumps. I am not quitting.
I love it. Resiliency, man. When I think about that, just about bending, man. Got to bend. Don't break. Got to bend.
Again, martial arts, you say you either want to be the big oak tree or the bamboo, and that goes with it. You got to be, because that oak tree just don't get smashed. So
Yep.
you just
Totally.
yeah. So resilient. Any young people out there, man, don't let them take it out of you, man. You keep rocking and rolling, and stay resilient.
Yep.
And stay off the social media, man. It's way, way overrated, man. Way
Exactly.
overrated.
Exactly.
No soul in that crap. No soul, baby. No soul, man. And listen to some blues and some jazz and take a walk outside. You're gonna be all right.
Exactly. So how do they learn more about you? I know,
Sure.
We just talked about social media, but if anything, more or less, how do they learn more about Mad Training?
Sure. Appreciate it. So again, the company is Murry Athletic Development. We have our own foundation, which was started pre-COVID as a result. So the Mad Excellence Foundation. We're at madtraining.org, MAD training.org. My tech guys have done a great job setting that all up, so I can't take any blame, more importantly, any credit for it. But that's the best way to contact us. I've got many friends and family in the game out there, so someone's going to know me, for better or for worse, and track me down. But we're based in San Francisco, do a lot of work with youth in San Francisco. I wanted to come home. I'm fourth generation San Franciscan. To all us natives out there, that means a lot to us. So did a lot of traveling pre-COVID, but right now with COVID being crazy, I've had to kind of slow my roll. And I want to come home. I want to get back a bit. So I'm home trying to get back here and build a foundation for youngsters here, and then build and mushroom from here. So I appreciate it, man. Thank you for doing this. Seriously, it's important. Keep talking. I know I can help you. My team can help you and your crew. You got us.
Awesome, man. Well, likewise, man. It's just been a treat. And I'm serious. I'm going to have you back on the show. You got so much knowledge, and I just thank you for sharing your journey and your mindset and your energy.
No, my pleasure. Thank you again. And to your listeners, man, keep doing your thing and stay happy. Get outside and stay happy, man. Keep it and stay resilient.
Exactly.
All right, man. All the best to you, man. Appreciate it very much.
All right.
Got it.
Awesome.